Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Long Live Rock and Roll podcast with your hosts Laz Michaelides here, and on the screen opposite me, Mr. Felipe Amarim. How you doing, bro?
Doing great, bro. How's everyone doing? I hope you guys are all right.
Good. Yeah, we hope you guys are okay. Thanks for tuning into another one of the episodes. We've done quite a few albums in a row, haven't we? So we thought we'd kind of split it up with a bit of topical discussion. And the feedback we've had from you guys regarding these episodes has been really positive. So we're going to do a third part of the covers versus originals debate. And do you know what I love about this, Felipe? There's no end. It's not
No,
like part three of
I
three.
actually thought like
Just
how
go
many
on.
songs have been covered by famous rock bands, and it's like, yeah, it's endless, isn't it?
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
gonna
So
we're gonna be like 75 years old doing like the
welcome to covers versus originals part 73. Like just
yeah, kind of that,
yeah, I don't know why I went for
right?
like a Beatles accent, but anyway, yeah, welcome back. And what we love to do with this show, with especially in these kind of episodes, is we take your suggestions as well. So in this playlist today of the four songs, we're going to look at the covers and the originals, have a debate about which one we prefer. Two of them have been chosen by you guys, which I put out stuff on our social media telling us, asking you to tell us your favorite covers, and we've stuck them all in the big playlist. And when it comes to doing these shows, Felipe picks one, I pick one, and then we pick one or two as suggested by you. So, leaving the last covers versus originals episode, we have a scoreboard. So the covers are currently winning by 10-6. Now, this is purely mine and Felipe's opinions on whether we
Yeah.
choose the cover of or the original of a song. And we're going to continue this because ultimately we want to get, like we said, whenever this podcast ends, let's hope it's another 50, 60 years from now. But whenever it does end, we want to be able to say,
The
well, the
final
covers,
score.
yeah, the final score covers 167, originals 123. So it would be really good to just, I think,
That
really funny as well to just keep this going. But yeah, so that's going into this episode. Covers 10, originals 6. So without further ado, let's get cracking. First song we're going to do is Elton John's cover of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, made famous by the Beatles. Felipe, kick us off, bro. What are your first thoughts on
So
this?
that's a John Lennon song, isn't it?
Yes,
From an
good.
album that is dominated by Paul McCartney when you think about it, and you have John putting his psychedelic touch into the album, and it's such a beautiful song. And I think, well, I remember listening to the Elton John version like some time ago, but I didn't pay too much attention to it. It was like, well, sounds pretty much like the original. Like even the drum fill, there's a really cool drum fill. There's like three hits, boom, 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 and he gets into the chorus, which
Yeah,
is like so remarkable. He kept that thing. There's a slightly different bass line at the beginning, but the bass comes in kind of the same time. So he didn't. When you start listening to Elton John's version of it, it doesn't sound that much different. Then he gets into a verse is when he sings about, is it the I've got the lyrics is newspaper taxis appear on the shore. So that's at this part of the lyrics, he changes the melody.
mm,
It's not the same melody, and he even adds a kind of a reggae beat at some point. So it
yeah.
does become quite different, but it's like he's preparing you for that. I feel like it's slightly slower. I didn't like check the BPM or anything like that,
I
but
think it is slower.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's slower. But it's like it's almost like this song that you guys know really well. Here's me just playing like the original, kind of, and then he starts changing it. And Elton John is a big fan of John Lennon, right? So he didn't. I bet he never wanted to do anything that would sound like, I don't know, remotely bad. If being
Yeah.
a good fan. So I think it's like try to be kind of loyal to the original version, but then at the end he just goes nuts and
It
does it
does a bit.
really.
Yeah.
And I
It's
actually really enjoyed it when I actually paid attention to the arrangement. And I
yeah.
think he put some effort into being creative on someone else's material without affecting the essence of the song. And I think he did a phenomenal job with that.
It's a really good point. And I agree. I listened to the song. I thought it was lovely. Musically, as in music theory wise, it's down half a step. It's down a whole tone. So
Mm-hmm.
the overall key of the song is different. And for some reason, for me, when we hit the chorus, it feels like a much more dramatic key change than it does in the Beatles one.
because of the
Now,
difference in the original keys.
that's what I'm thinking,
Yeah,
because I mean the only other option to describe that would be the, and this would be a criticism of the cover, is that I think the Beatles version, the flow of the song is so immaculate. It just goes from one section to another seamlessly. The song floats the whole way through. And there are three key changes, if I'm not mistaken. So you've got your intro and your verse, and then it changes where it's cellophane flowers or the newspaper taxi. That's a key change.
yeah,
And then when it goes to Lucien, that's also another key change, I believe.
yeah,
Someone, if you're listening, correct me if I'm wrong. In the Beatles song, I just don't ever feel like you notice that. Whereas with the Elton John one, I think that the changes between the sections are quite regimented, they're quite uniform.
yeah,
Um, and I suppose, just to say, I'm a big fan of both of these songs. I love the Beatles one, but the Elton John cover is brilliant. But I'm nitpicking because you guys know we have to
yeah,
give a score, we have to choose our
yeah,
favorite. So I have to be critical. And I did like the Elton John one. I kind of felt it went a bit more psychedelic, especially in the intro,
yeah.
in the
Funny,
production, the
isn't it?
instruments,
Yeah,
the effects on the
yeah.
instruments.
Yeah, it's like the Beatles at that time, they were experimenting a lot, and you would think
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to match that. But I think,
it's hard to out psychedelic the
yeah,
Beatles,
exactly how psychedelic the Beatles.
especially with
That's
a song written in the '60s.
what a task.
Yeah,
Yeah, and yeah, but he was there. I mean, he accepted the challenge and he did a great job on that. I think there's something really interesting about their voices. John,
Beatles.
yeah, well,
Yeah,
John Lennon and Elton John, they have actually Elton John, his stage name, like it's Elton John. If I'm not wrong, he chose John because of John Lennon. I'm not quite sure, but
wow, I
yeah,
didn't know
that's
that.
what's in the
There you
movie. I
go.
think that's in his movie, and he was working with the producers, so I believe he wouldn't let that make it into the movie if it was a
Yeah,
lie.
yeah.
So, but they both have such remarkable voices, and they cannot pretend to be someone else. So that's the one thing about Elton John. It's like, this is me singing this song. I feel like there's less effects on his voice. It's more like his natural voice,
Yeah.
and he just, yeah, he didn't. He just can't sound like anyone else. He's got such a personality, and same thing about John Lennon.
Mm,
So it's so funny because like I can't pick my favorite in that point. It's just like
okay.
uh I love both interpretations in terms of vocals, and I really like the changes in the beat and the melody that Elton John brought to the song.
Yeah,
At
I
the
was.
same time, the original is so like it's just so stuck in my brain in a
It's
way that I can't get rid of it. It's there.
just like most songs on Sergeant Pepper, especially the
Yeah.
first sort of five songs, they're perfect.
Oh yeah.
And you can only associate. It's so hard to cover a Beatles song because how are you going to do it better than them? The most iconic band the world has ever seen, because of
Yeah.
songs like Lucy, Getting Better, Sergeant Pepper. How do you cover them better than the most iconic band and a song from the most iconic album? So actually, massive credit and props to Elton John for even attempting this. Again, for my sake, in terms of my opinion, being a bit nitpicking, a bit critical, I didn't think it needed to be that long. And Elton John's version, you know that he changed. You're right, he changed the melody. When he repeats newspaper taxis, he does it again in a bridge, doesn't it? It acts as almost like
Yeah.
a bridge section. Didn't need that. And I don't really know, again, just being ultra critical, don't really know if we needed that little reggae section before the final chorus.
Mhm.
Kind of thought it took me out of the flow of the song more. I enjoyed Elton's version because it was segmented. Like I said before, the Beatles song just runs so smoothly, section to section.
Mhm.
Elton John's one, you do feel it's like, right, here's the verse. Okay, he's obviously showing us the transition to the pre-chorus. Right, we've got that. Right, now he's building up for the chorus, and it's just, I feel it's very regimented in that sense. You
Yeah.
can tell where each section is, whereas the Beatles one, it just flows. So I kind of felt the reggae section just took me out. However, the solo in Elton John's one was really cool. I think it was a little flute solo or something, just added to the psychedelic element of
I was
it.
kind of unsure if that's a synth or if it's a
I thought it
flute or
was a
whatever.
flute,
Yeah,
but it could, I could be wrong.
yeah, yeah,
But
probably is a flute.
the chorus of Elton John's one really, it's brilliant. The
Yeah.
bass groove is fantastic. The
So do
backing
you?
vocals on it and the drum fills in the chorus I thought were brilliant.
So who scores on that one?
Okay, so I have to go with the original. What about you?
You're gonna be surprised. I'll go for Elton John's.
Wow,
Yeah.
really? I am
Um.
surprised. So you're, just to confirm, just so the listeners also know what we do, I need you to confirm it, and I need you to confirm it for the viewers as well. You're saying that if you could only listen to one version of this song for the rest of your life, it would be Elton John's.
That's for sure. And I'll tell you why. All right.
Wow. Go on, please
Phrasing
explain.
like that, it's for sure. Because
Okay.
the original one, I don't need to listen to it again because it's like forever in my mind. It will never leave. So the thing with
That's cheating.
Yeah.
That's
See,
yeah.
that's why. No. Here's Okay. I might. Yeah.
Go for it.
Anyway.
No, go on. Explain.
No. So yeah, the Beatles police is going to arrest me. But here's my thoughts on that. I love that song so much and the album so much. I know
Sergeant
at the same
Pepper.
time, yeah.
Yeah.
And Elton John, I saw him live his last tour, and I think he was absolutely brilliant.
Oh yes, you did, didn't you? Yeah, you said it was amazing.
He's such an amazing artist. I mean, I'd never realized how much he was a part of my life listening to radio, even back in Brazil. Like, because his music is everywhere all the time. And he's just phenomenal. I love him, right? And he's pop, but he's rock and he's blues and classical. He's got everything. So I love him.
Yeah.
But that song, yeah, the Beatles, I would even say, well, maybe the Beatles is actually better in that sense. But because I love the Beatles so much and I didn't remember Elton John's version of it, when I listened to it, it was so refreshing.
Yeah.
It just gave another life to a song that I love. But I must say, this the picks we had for this episode were the hardest ones for me to compare. I think, yeah.
I'm glad to hear it.
It's the third time we're doing this, right? The covers,
third episode.
Originals, yeah.
And guys, you've got to let us know in the comments. Either get in touch or put them in the comments below. Where are you voting? Are you going for the cover or the original? So going from the Beatles, we are going to talk about one Beatle, Mr. Paul McCartney and his band Wings. So this song was actually chosen for us by my brother, who showed me this song when we were at a family gathering one day. And I thought, he actually suggested it when I said, what songs should we do that are covers? And he put this one in, and I'm really glad he did, because when he first showed me this song, I loved it. And then he showed me the original, and I loved it even more. Not even more, but both songs brought something, sort of stirred up something within me. And the song is Love Is Strange by Wings. And the original was done by a sort of, I imagine they're a 50s kind of rock and roll duo called Mickey and Sylvia. I'm going to start this one off and say that when I heard the Wings version, first of all, you think it's almost an instrumental because the intro goes on for like a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I heard it, and I heard the groove, and I heard the Bossa Police are going to come and get me because I might get the wrong kind of genre that I'm sort of talking about here. But it almost does have that kind of Latino feel to it, where it's just
I thought that groove was a bit like a bit South American, a bit Caribbean. I think it's they did something to it.
Yeah. But that's really nice. And then when I heard the original, it was so different, yet really familiar. And I know that is what a good cover's meant to do. But yeah, why don't you carry on for a little bit?
So I wasn't familiar with this song because
any of them?
No, I love Wings, but I don't remember listening to this song, or maybe I didn't listen to the whole album, whatever. But I don't remember the song, and I don't know the original artists. I've never heard of them, believe me or not. And so when I listened to it, like, I've listened to the original, and the feeling I had was like, yeah, Love Is Strange, and the song is kind of strange,
A
right?
little
The
bit.
way they, yeah, it's like it's on the edge of being radio friendly because it's short, has like a, a really strong chorus, creative lyrics, but it's strange and it's not really positive, cheerful. And they don't have, I didn't hear any drum beats to it. It's just
Mm.
like
Lots
percussion.
of
It sounds like
percussion. Yeah.
glasses.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of objects they used as percussion. I think the idea was to make an arrangement
Yeah.
that is actually strange, and I thought the effect of that is amazing. So then I went on to listen to the Wings version, and you can hear like, yeah, that's Wings. That's a band that I love, and I love the way they play, and you have that vibe, and it's kind of a hippie take on that song.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that.
Kind of is very like post Beatles, McCartney vibe, and they did a great job. And I think the most um, relevant change in the song is the drum beat. You might agree with me. So because the drum beat really loops itself and repeats and repeats and
Yeah.
repeats and becomes a big part of the song. I found quite weird that I actually, just like you, I thought, oh, this, they just did an instrumental take on it. And no, they actually just take a while to start singing. It's almost like they want you to get used to a certain groove and a certain atmosphere, and then they come singing something that you probably know or you might have heard before. So it's like
Yeah.
that. Oh, here's this weird groove. You don't know uh, what this is going to lead to, but then comes a song. There's a cover song, right? I love McCartney's voice on that one. He doesn't overdo anything. It's like to the point. They've got the harmonies. They got the clever arrangements and everything. I like it, but comes a but. I found really hard to make a pick, but I'll give you my opinion now on this one because that's my conclusion is they made it less strange.
The Wings made it less
Yeah.
strange. Okay.
So I prefer the original. I found
Interesting.
the original for me was like, this is so unlike anything else I've heard before that you will get my vote. And I
Nice.
love
Okay.
Wings.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll tell you my thoughts on it. As you said, the drum beat provided a really nice groove to the song, and I thought it was groovy. And I just, you want to bop and beat with it. And but the thing is despite that there's such an obvious groove in the song, it still harkens back to the original in feel, even in tempo and vibe, and just the way it sits with you. I love the little percussion solo that they put before Paul's vocals come in. And I thought that was a little throwback to the original, because the original has so much percussion going on.
Yeah.
But then there's just a little 10-second percussion solo. You touched on a really interesting point where you said you kind of felt like Wings wanted to drag it out, and then just as you're kind of getting not bored, but just as you're kind of to think, right, well, just as you're starting to think, where is this going, they put the vocals in, and they do the same thing further on in the song, because the first set of vocals is two. It's I mean, I don't know who the singers are in Wings. Maybe it was Paul and himself, or maybe it was Paul and the drummer or whatever. But
Linda is singing as well,
there you
probably.
go. So it was those two. Then the next verse, it's just Paul on his own. And just as you start thinking, right, the song's dragging on a bit, they always change something up. And I thought that was really cool. One thing to note is that the original, it had that really raw 50s vibe to it, and I enjoyed that a lot. It felt like it was recorded in one room, all the band in one room together,
Yeah.
and the dialogue between the so-called lovers felt really authentic, and it probably complemented the fact that this song was taken, or it was used in the Dirty Dancing movie, which I thought kind of it was a really good song. I haven't actually seen the movie people come at me, but kind of felt appropriate for that movie, knowing what I know about it. It's a romance film or something. But having said all that,
It's a classic, lass. You
I've
don't know
heard,
it.
yeah. So having said all that,
I'm not saying it's good.
that's true with a lot of classic movies, isn't it? Having said all of that, there is something that keeps me interested in the Wings version. Every time I listen to it, I will happily sit there for that minute and a half because I know what's coming. And I like the dynamic between him and Linda's vocals. I love when he changes it up for the next verse and it's just him. And yeah, so my vote goes to the cover actually. So another 1-1, right? Just taking
Cool.
notes from this. This is great. I love this, man.
So I get,
I
yeah.
absolutely
So
love this.
originals for me and cover for you.
Yeah.
This one, yeah.
So moving on to the third song of the episode, we are doing "Knockin' on Heaven's Door," the cover by Guns N' Roses, the original by Bob Dylan. You kick us off with this one.
Oh, that's an interesting one, right? I found this one the hardest one to choose, and I'll tell you at the end why. But this song has been covered by everyone and their mums, right? Like Eric Clapton did a cover of this, Avril Lavigne did a cover of this, obviously Guns N' Roses that we're talking about. So everyone covered that song, which makes you kind of forget that Bob Dylan wrote the song. And I think the reason why so many people covered it is because it's one of those things. It's so simple.
I was just going to say that. Great
and
point.
It's a one line chorus. Any band of any genre could play that song.
Yeah.
And make it sound
their
acceptable. And make it their own. Some people can make it sound amazing, right? Clapton did a bit of as a reggae, he did his own thing. But I first got to know that song with the Guns N' Roses version when I was a teenager at school, and someone introduced me to Guns N' Roses. I've listened to User Illusion, which is a double album. I think it was released as 2 separate vinyls at the time, or CDs, but released at the same time, so technically like a double album.
And just a note for listeners, we're going to be doing a Use Your Illusion album episode over the next couple of months, so stay tuned.
Yeah, it's got a few covers in it, isn't it? So that is it's a phenomenal album, I believe, and they put that song in it and they made it their own. So I'll talk about the Guns N' Roses version first. So what they did to the song is basically arrangements, right? So
yes,
the melody is the same. You can't change much. It's what it is. They did a lot more of light and shade, right?
Yep.
First of all, at that time, they are the superstars of rock and roll. There's no band in the world that's making more money than the Guns N' Roses. That they're super famous all over the world.
Yeah.
And they have this massive budget for the album, and they have backing vocalists. They have the piano. They have orchestras and some songs in the album. They got everything they want, and it's a big production, and it sounds like big production. But the core of the arrangement is still a band: 2 guitars, bass, drums, vocals, and Dizzy Reed, who's a piano keyboard player. He plays a big role in that version and the whole album. So as a band, and they did a great job, and the production is great. And I think what they did best was like quiet verse, loud chorus. Yeah, predictable. But then they take you down for the guitar solo. And the first guitar solo, by the way, that was for me. It was the first song I've learned on guitar. I've learned that song on acoustic guitar, and I've learned a little bit of the solo when I was like probably, I don't know, 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
Trying to learn guitar, and it was like, oh, super cool. But I thought there was a Guns N' Roses, or someone mentioned Bob Dylan, didn't know him, whatever. So I was listening and trying to play along with the record. And the thing was like, okay, you have the way that they bring the dynamics down, and you have a really bluesy, distorted solo on top of it. The second solo comes when the song is up there. It's really loud, really aggressive, and Slash just goes for it. So you got 2 epic guitar solos, right, in different dynamics in the same song. And I think that's beautiful. That's one of the things they did best to the song. Now, my opinion on Bob Dylan's version.
Hold on. Let me talk about Guns N' Roses.
Okay.
And then we'll both.
Cool.
I agree with you completely about the Guns N' Roses. I think that the dynamic changes of the song takes you on such a journey that really does. Again, I got to be critical because I got to essentially eliminate one or the other. If I could improve this cover, here's how I do it. Laz Unleashed.
As Unleashed.
I feel it's a little too intense and heavy straight off. Even from the opening few seconds, the drums, they hit the snare is being hit really hard. And although they're doing the dynamic stuff and going up and down, it's just right from the start. Harmonies on the vocals, drums playing heavy. The first chorus was so loud. Axl in the first chorus doing his ow, ow, wow, that. I kind of feel like you just start off less. You do one vocal line, no harmony. The drums maybe click, or what's it called? Click on the snare, the stick.
Or side stick, cross stick,
whatever.
Yeah.
No backing vocals. Get Axl just to sing the chorus line. No knocking on heaven's door. Wow, wow. None of that stuff. Just and then next verse, add the vocal harmonies. Then he goes to the actual snare. Then for the solo, I love it when songs start small. The best example, Stairway to Heaven, where you start with nothing and you get to the end and you've got everything. And
I think what we're having here is a new segment. I'm sorry to interrupt you. You have a new segment. Last rewrites history. Right. I love this. Right,
I'm just saying it could genuinely be one of the greatest covers of all time. It's going to sound so arrogant if I say if Guns N' Roses did what I said, then they could have the best. No, again, this is all personal. Just my opinion.
Imagine if Guns N' Roses had listened to you last. They could have made it. They would be a famous band. You know what I mean?
Well, this is what I'm here for. My services are available.
Yeah. If they listened to you, they would have made so much money.
They missed the trick.
Yeah, they're now struggling to pay council tax. Right.
Anyway, all that aside, I just felt it was so up and down. I feel like it could have been down, little more up, big solo, whatever. Having said all that, the guitar solos are sublime, unbelievable, and they really make the cover. And we know who plays it. Slash, obviously. The middle jam section, wow, where Axl sings a line, and then out of nowhere you get these fantastic female gospel singers, just call and response. Axl sings, they respond, incredible. Yeah. The ending a little bit abrupt. I would have had it bigger and have Slash sort of shredding over the ending. I don't love the newscast dialogue part in it. I don't know if they did that on purpose or if that was a. Do you know the part I mean? Where is it a news broadcast or a television, something or other? It kind of takes me out of the moment. But again, we very quickly go back into that middle section with the gospel singers, and it is brilliant. A really, really, really good cover and iconic for the band who covered it. Almost as famous, I'd say this cover. Some people would categorize it as being as famous as songs like Paradise City and Welcome to the Jungle. Would you agree?
Yeah, it is. It's for some people like me, it's the first Guns N' Roses song you've listened to. And I think that's fair.
Anyway, Dylan, do you want to kick us off with Dylan's version, the original?
Yeah. So I kind of didn't remember that one because so many covers of that song. So when I started listening to it again, I was like, I always describe Dylan as a storyteller, and I think that's what he is. And that was even more evident in the song because some of his lyrics are quite long. Some of his lyrics are quite dense and intellectually challenging and really clever stuff. And this one's so straight to the point, like a couple of lines and you go to the chorus. Then not a couple of lines and go to the chorus. Such a short.
Can I interrupt you and just suggest why?
Yeah.
This song was written, if I'm not mistaken, as part of a movie soundtrack. Did you know that? It's off the album.
Oh my God, I didn't know that because I was about to say something.
It's off the album Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, which I believe Bob Dylan wrote for sorry, I'm messing my words up. I believe Bob Dylan wrote the whole soundtrack to the album, and it was for the movie. It wasn't like his songs were used in the movie. I think he wrote it for the movie. Let me have a double check.
That really leads into what I was about to say. Won't believe me. What I even put this on my notes. I'll read from my notes, right? the song is the script from a movie. That's how I put it here. I
Brilliant.
didn't know that. It's interesting.
Awesome.
Like a short dramatic scene. And the thing with that, with his version of it, it's so dark and so straight to the point. When I had the scene in my mind, like this cop or sheriff dying, so take the badge off me.
That's crazy, bro. That's so
I
cool.
saw the scene in my head. I came up with a scene in my head whilst listening to it. So like, wow, that's why. So I said I could try kind of visualize it as a script.
No,
Those lines.
I'm really sorry I interrupted you, because if you had said that and I'd have
Yeah.
responded with it, so I'm sorry
No, no,
about
no, no,
that. But
no,
yeah,
no, don't
but
be sorry.
that's
The thing for me is like, if you put it those lines in a movie without the music, just that guy saying, "Take this badge off of me. I can't use it anymore." So, and it's like I feel like I'm knocking on heaven's door. So it's like it's poetic, but it's something you could believe that someone would be saying, knowing that they're about to die. So I think he really, whatever, if the scene was ready before he wrote the song, whatever the scenario was, he really takes you into that. One of the reasons it works is because, as a general rule, on that sometimes is the negative side of Dylan's albums, which is the production sometimes is so simple that like everyone who covered his songs seem to have had better production than him, and which sometimes upsets me. It's like such great songs, and sometimes like, yeah, just put some drums and bass and guitar and whatever. And that was a Felipe Unleashed, wasn't it? But in this case, being really really simple makes you think more. It's almost like nothing matters as much as the acoustic guitar and the vocals, and with those two things only, those two elements only, you can picture that scene in your head, and it's dark and it's sad, it's dramatic.
yeah,
And I think it's beautiful like that.
It's funny you say that, because it actually, looking at the track listing of the movie soundtrack, it's the only song after it is called Final Theme.
Yes.
So I'm imagining that Knocking on Heaven's Door is
the last one with the lyrics,
a penultimate one.
I want to watch the movie now.
We should with the
My
movie
God,
night.
how am I doing this episode without watching it?
So my take on the Dylan stuff. With Bob Dylan, as always, the sparsity is nice. The sparseness of where we've always said, every time we did these episodes, we've always spoken about Dylan as a poet and a songwriter and a lyricist, not necessarily executing as an artist. I think it's fair to say that his not all of his songs have been executed as good as others could have.
Yeah.
But the lyrics, the music in itself, as in the chords behind the song, they're always top notch. And with Dylan, his voice is the king, and his words and his poetry. Dylan is the primary in every song he does, because you're listening to the poet tell the story. Whereas with Guns N' Roses, the band is the primary. You can even just tell it from the opening 10 seconds of both versions. Dylan's is just the soft acoustic guitar that's so soft you can't actually hear how the guitarist is strumming it. Whereas Guns N' Roses, you can hear every note. I think Slash breaks the chord up, doesn't he? Like arpeggiates it. It's not just a chord, it's like a something like that. It's just and then again, that comes down to what you said about the production. So yeah, should we take a vote?
Yeah.
Go on, tell what's yours favorite?
Guns N' Roses. After saying all those beautiful things about Dylan's version, what for me is like what Guns N' Roses did to the song is it's a really dangerous approach. For me, they took it's like taking a scene from a Western, or rebooting a Western movie and telling the same story as a sci-fi futuristic movie with CGI and still make it work.
Yeah.
So that's why they're brilliant. That's what they did.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. I think I've said all I'd say. That there's just something very epic.
That was the hardest one to choose, probably, for me. probably.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, for me, the next one's harder. So let's move on to the next one.
Right.
And now, viewers, people, YouTube listeners, or let's just do a quick break. Where I'm just going to say to you guys that if you listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, you have the option to watch us as a video. So although podcast is normally audio, unfortunately, I don't think this is implemented for Spotify yet. I think they only do it on Joe Rogan's one because he's special.
Yeah.
But for a lot of other podcasts, I don't think you can see a video. But with Apple Podcasts, you can actually watch us in video form. And if you're watching us on YouTube, this doesn't matter. But yeah, just if you want to see our faces and see what we're talking about. And I said all this because viewers will see that Felipe's background is Mr. Keith Richards. And you might have been sitting there thinking, well, why is the Rolling Stones behind him? The fourth song and the final song we're going to do for this episode is chosen by a listener of ours who has suggested that we do I Can't Get No Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones, which is the original compared to the cover by Mr. Otis Redding. Now, disclaimer here, massive disclaimer. I screwed up. I sent Felipe the list of songs and I was like, yeah, Otis Redding did the original and the Stones covered it. Didn't do my research.
I was shocked with that. Really?
Yeah, I didn't do my research. God. Didn't check
what
it enough.
What a shocking information. I didn't know that.
When
was Otis Redding version recorded? When was
the same year, 65.
Really? Like months after?
Probably, yeah. But yeah, so actually my notes are a bit, I'm going to be winging this because my notes are about how they did this after him and did this and that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, anyway, to clarify, the original is by the Rolling Stones and the cover is by Otis Redding. So I want to talk about the cover first. Again, my notes are all screwed up. I want to talk about the cover by Otis Redding.
Yeah.
I think the chord progression really suits the soul style. Not necessarily more than the rock version, but with soul and Motown, you don't often have a lot of variety in the harmonic progression of a song. You might vamp on two chords going back and forward, which is kind of what this song does. I think the placement of the horns and the saxophone and the trumpets in this song, or in Otis's version, are really cool. And more than anything, Otis Redding's voice is always a soft spot for me. I love his voice. Like, he is one of my favorite singers of all time.
His voice is the definition of soul.
Yeah. And anything he does, you've sold me on. So hearing him doing his little, I think I read somewhere in the 10 minutes I had between Felipe telling me I was wrong, I actually had a quick look, and Otis Redding, there's an interview with him where he says something like, I couldn't even remember the lyrics when we got to the end of the song, so I was just like, when I'm riding in my car and I say, hey, how about that little wow, and he's just scatting towards the end of the song, isn't he? I thought that was kind of cool because it's just nice vamp, this nice improvisation part of it. But yeah, do you want to talk now about talk about the Stones?
I like. I was surprised by the fact that it doesn't sound that much different to me in a certain way because of the tempo, because there's a drum break in the same part. It's like he's not making an effort to sound extremely different because he doesn't need to, because his voice is so unique. Right, but obviously sounds more like Motown, more like American soul music.
Yeah.
Well, but the Stones had a groove with the snare on all four beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, going on, which is a very Motown vibe. So even the Stones one is not that rock. It's a bit of a Motown / soul.
But that's where they came from, isn't it? They had that soul
R&B
blues kind of
they had all of that. So that's there. So yeah, I do like the horns instead of just the guitar riff, but the guitar riff is there, right? The guitar riff is there, and it's probably none of Otis Redding songs have anything similar to that sort of guitar sound. I might be wrong about this.
No, I think you're right. I feel just that he definitely prioritized or brass and horns, I think, were much more a priority. I think he just went with the guitar because he was covering the Stones.
Yeah,
he said, exactly. This is an iconic part of the song. I have to keep it in.
Exactly. You can't, like, if you're going to do songs like Satisfaction or Smoke on the Water or Sweet Child of Mine, yeah, you
You're
can
not going
try
to do it on
and
a keyboard, are you?
well, yeah, you can try and eliminate the riff. You can even do it on keyboards or whatever. But
Yeah.
if you eliminate the riff, which some people have done with some classic songs like that, it's yeah, I would say it's too much of a risk. You might risk turning the song into something a bit boring. And I think he went for like, this is the riff, as you know, so you know which song it is straight away.
Yep.
But this is a voice that you love singing that song.
Yeah.
And if he released on the same year, that was a really clever move.
Well, do you know what they did that in the 50s and 60s? Often you'd have Elvis covering Simon and Garfunkel a few months after, and Bob Dylan doing a,
Yeah.
Hendrix, didn't he cover Watchtower like about a year
Yeah, well,
after?
he definitely
Dylan?
covered Beatles like straight away. They
Yeah, I love
released
that. Don't just as an aside,
Sgt.
I do
Pepper's,
love
yeah.
that everyone in those 60s, we're just covering each other's songs, doing it. Oh, they hear it on the
I love
radio, like
that.
screw it, I want to do that song. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great, and I think it's like, why not having many different versions of the same song?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
it's pick and choose your favorite. No?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was quite surprised in a good way because I didn't know his version, and I love his voice same way as I know you love him as well. He's great, and I think yeah, it surprised me, and I think he did in such an enjoyable way. He sounds like he's just having fun.
Yeah.
Exactly. It sounds like you wouldn't imagine that I would sing this song. So here I am doing this song, and it's just really it's good fun. It's for me as good as the original.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on the original?
Right. Well, that's it. I mean, can't think of a riff. Again, first riff I've learned on guitar. So not the first song was Knockin' on Heaven's Door, and first riff I've learned was that one. It's 3 notes. Simple, straight to the point, effective. Like that riff is rock and roll.
Yeah.
That riff on its own, and it's pure Keith Richards. It's like almost sloppy. It's like if you feel like the rhythm is not going to kind of work, and it works. The bass line at the beginning,
it's like a counter rhythm. It's great, isn't it?
It's almost like makes no sense, but it works. Yeah. It's like, I don't know, that bass line is so odd.
Very significant.
And it matches. And you have Charlie Watts being Charlie Watts, like, you guys go nuts. I'll be here keeping the beat, because if I don't do this, that's too crazy, right?
Yeah.
It goes too crazy. And he's just there, holding the band together like a metronome, start to finish. And what I really love about the recording is Mick Jagger's voice. It sounds so sarcastic all the way, and it's like I'm so fed up with this. Nothing works for me. Well, in a point where they're actually doing well, or this song actually made them loads of money and fame, and everything that comes with it, But it's almost like someone who's frustrated, nothing works for them, he's upset with everything, like even the guy on the radio trying to sell you something, you just don't want to hear about it. And it's like, oh, I don't want this, I don't want that, nothing works, I'm not happy. And you get so much satisfaction from a song that says, I can get no satisfaction. And it's like, it's so much fun to listen to. And I think Mick's vocals are just fun. They have the spirit of rock music, through and through, and I love it. Big fan.
Yeah.
Your opinion on that?
It's just an iconic rock song, isn't it? And because of that, and because of what you told me 15 minutes before we start recording, my opinion's completely changed. Not my opinion, my vote has completely changed.
Right.
So do you know what? Let's do the votes, right? I'll start off. My vote goes for the original, the Rolling Stones, because had it been the other way round, I'd have gone with Otis Redding's version, because I think it was really cool. Really, he got the horns. Listen, it doesn't matter because it's not the original. I need to deal in the facts, because now I know what I know. For them to have taken that very simple melody and turn it into an iconic guitar riff, and have that bass doing a counter rhythm, and as you said, with all the lyrics talking about when life gets you down, I just can't get it anymore. I can't get no satisfaction. they were quite instrumental in pushing lyrics. There's a massive argument that they are the owners of the title for the first heavy metal lyrics with Paint It Black. I see a red door and I want it painted black. There's an argument, there's a massive argument by metal critics and historians that those are the first heavy metal lyrics because it's
that
just
song
dark.
is really
Yeah,
dark. It's really
I see a
sad. And it
line
went
of
number
cars.
one, didn't it?
Yeah,
I think it went number one. Yeah.
So they have this history of making lyrics and just like we did with The Who on the last episode, where they're saying to people, life isn't always great. Life does suck sometimes. It's not all about driving in your car with your love and going to the cinema and the Super Bowl and the mall and doing this and doing that, love songs here and there. Life does suck sometimes and we need to acknowledge it. And so I think for all of those together, the iconic riff, the counter rhythm that the bass plays to match that riff, but yet it never doesn't feel like it matches, and the lyrics and what that song stands for. I think it was literally, in my opinion, the bridge between rock and roll, what as we know it, your Elvises, your Chuck Berrys, and rock music. We know what the Stones and the Beatles did for pop. Let's kind of push that aside. In terms of rock music, we're still finding our way, and the Stones with this song kind of just really hammering it home, keeping a rock and roll vibe, keeping an element of bluesiness to it, not in the progression, but just in the feel, in the looseness of it. Like you said, Keith Richards is almost sloppy, but then hitting with a really iconic guitar riff makes it, for me, the original has to take the vote this time. What about you?
Yeah, I gave the vote to the Stones as well. But like that was a really close one.
Yeah, that was the closest one.
Same thing. I mean, almost as close for me as Knocking on Heaven's Door.
This has been a tough episode. Like it was.
Yeah.
I feel like some of the others, like when we did. Oh yeah.
No, what I want to say about this, like, right? It's I'll get like that's my philosophical moment at the podcast. It happens from time to time, doesn't it?
Let's do it. Yeah.
We live in a world where everyone has to pick a side. Is red or blue? Is it like Coke or Pepsi? Is it like coffee or tea?
Yeah, left wing, right wing. We're forced to decide, aren't we?
It's like it's like there's no shades of anything. I feel like that, or you're not the people selling you ideas and products and everything. They don't want you to see any shades between anything. It's like this is right, everything else is wrong. And worse, people who don't have the same taste of me, or people who don't have the same visions as me, I just don't like them. I don't want them in my life. I hate them. It's like, right, the fun thing about doing an episode like this is like, I would never ever vote for those songs if you didn't ask me to.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know what? I like listening to a different take on something that I like. And it might be a clear case of, no, I actually prefer the original, or I actually prefer the cover. But most of those cases, like, I like both. Can I just like both? Can I see something positive and negative on both of them? And I think like so I think what we do with the episodes, like, I don't expect anyone to have the same opinions as me or you, or to clash for and get into an argument for this has to be the best version of it. Our podcast is not about that, right?
It's all like, about opinion. What we think, like, how
this
we
is
react
an opinion,
to music. Yeah.
And if we give you our opinion about songs, then it's like, oh, wait a minute, I don't agree with that. Cool. Now we're talking about music. That's the whole point. Let's talk about music. If the subject's going to be what's your favorite, that's fine. That's just another great excuse to get into a conversation about the best subject in the whole world, which is music. That's what it is.
Beautiful stuff, man. Lovely. Couldn't put it any better myself. And just to add to that, I'll just say I completely agree with you. This podcast, we are all about how music makes us feel, what we think about it, how lyrics make us feel, and just overall, this podcast for new listeners who haven't heard the story. Myself and Felipe, when we're on tour, we'd always just talk about albums. Oh, have you listened to this one? Yeah, what did you think? Oh, I loved it. Yeah, my favorite song's this one. Really, that's your favorite song? Oh, I didn't really like that one. My one's this one because of it. And anyone who we're touring with, we've toured how many 4 or 5 bands and artists we've played for together, and they've all said, you should host a show. You should do a podcast about this, because it's just intriguing, even just listening to you two debate it and discuss
Some
it.
people thought we would get into a fight. We're just having a laugh. Now you're wrong. This is better.
I remember the best one. The best one, which we'll talk about on another episode, was Felipe Felipe wrongly believes that Black Sabbath are a hard rock band, and I think you can class them as heavy metal. And we were in the car one day in the tour van, just being like,
it's just wrong,
Felipe, mate, how can you say they're heavy metal? Laz, use your ears, they're hard rock. It's just, and the artist we were playing with, he thought guys, please calm down. And we were like, oh no, mate, don't worry. Like
we talk like this every day.
That's how we chat, like, because listen, ultimately we are so passionate about music. We love what we listen to. We love the bands that we love, and it just thought it's a great place to come and discuss it with you guys as well. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, be part of a conversation, and we let us have an argument with you about our favorite song,
or let us have an argument. Let us have an argument on your behalf. So you submit an opinion. It's like that Arrested Development thing, isn't it? Why should you be arrested for a crime that someone else noticed?
Why should you get into an argument about your own opinion? It's like, I'm going to argue with people to defend someone else's opinion. But anyway, it's just like, bring your opinions. And what happens with this sort of episodes is like when people say, oh, I love this version of it. And they're like, wow, I never heard of it. And sometimes it's not going to be my favorite, but I'm really glad to listen to new stuff, and that's a big part of what we do. We try to keep listening to rock music and finding different perspectives on the subject of rock music.
There you go. So as usual, the playlist for this episode will be in the show notes below, so you can listen to both the cover and the original. And whilst you're there, Apple and Spotify users, scroll a little further down and go and give us a rating. Go and give us a review. Take 30 seconds of your time, but it does us the world of good, because the more you guys review and say lovely words about us, the higher we go up in the charts and we're seen by more people. So that would be hugely appreciated. YouTube viewers, please hit like, subscribe so you don't miss out on an episode, and please be sure to share us with anyone else you think would like our content and like the episodes we do. We're an independent podcast. We do it all off our own backs, and we do it because we as you've heard in the last 5-minute passionate conversation, we love what we do. We love that we're musicians. We love that music is a massive part of our lives, and we love more than anything talking about it. So thank you for joining us on another episode. We want to know, you make sure you let us know in the comments what your favorite versions of each of these 4 songs are, and get involved in the discussion below. So thanks again for joining.
Yeah, thanks a lot for being with us again. Like, subscribe, and all that stuff they do on the internet. Stay tuned. We're here every other week for now, maybe more in the future, you never know. And thanks a lot, guys. As I normally say, I need to get used to say it every time and I can't forget. So what comes first? Keep on rocking, everyone, and don't do anything I wouldn't do.
You might not believe it, guys, but when he drums, he's fantastic. He doesn't miss or forget anything. He's brilliant. He's on it with the
in my life.
He knows all the fills.
I say this on a daily basis, but I forget to say on the podcast. Yeah.
So when it comes,
I'll say it again. Keep on rocking. Keep on rocking, everyone, and do not do anything I wouldn't do.
And as usual, take care, guys, and long live rock and roll.